Hi, welcome to Cliterally Speaking the Podcast. I'm Michelle Doherty.
And I'm Emily Lane.
We are BFFs dedicated to bringing you conversations between girlfriends over a bottle of wine.
Oh, I am so excited about the wine part.
Oh, me too. So pull up a chair, grab your glass,
and let's get talking.
Well, welcome back, Emily.
Hello, Michelle.
How are you doing today?
Oh my gosh, I am doing great. I'm really happy to be in the studio. It's nice and toasty and warm today.
Right.
Which is nice because
we had our first snow.
Snow is on
here
the
in
ground.
St. Louis.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so happy about that.
It's been quite the weather experience. Fortunately, though, it hasn't stuck, which my son was complaining about. He's like, it sucks. It snows all day long and there's nothing accumulating. And I said, that's a beautiful thing.
I'm ready to go make a snowman. I cannot wait.
You and William should, text each other and commiserate about the fact that there's no snow left on the ground. I, myself, am happy that it's all melting. I'm not ready to make snowmen.
Hopefully soon. Well, see, I've been watching all the Hallmark Christmas movies already.
That's what you're doing for yourself.
Yeah, I know. It is. That's how I take care of me. So
that's Emily's self-care regimen.
Right.
3.5 hours of Hallmark Christmas movies every day.
Yeah, they don't give you nightmares. It's just good old happy, charming stuff. So almost every movie has a let's make a snowman time. So that's got me inspired.
Well, hopefully, maybe one time this winter season, there will be enough snow you can make a snowman out of it.
Absolutely.
But anyway, I know we have a great bottle of wine. We have a wonderful guest with us here today, Amanda Staggenborg. Amanda, say hello to our listeners. And Emily.
Hi,
Amanda.
We're really glad you're able to make it in tonight.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for
the
having
elements.
me. Yes. It wasn't too bad.
Not too bad.
I was going to send us a sleigh for you, but not enough snow.
Yet again, no accumulation. But I'm sure Amanda's like, I had to drive pretty far to get here, so I'm glad I wasn't dealing with any of that.
Oh, it wasn't too bad.
Where do you drive
St.
from?
Peter's.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, so
that's a charming
about a half
town.
hour away.
Yeah.
Maybe 45 minutes in the snow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not too terrible.
No.
So it's
Well,
good.
great.
Yeah, so we're glad to have you here. And when I was talking to Amanda earlier, she said that she prefers a sweeter wine and a Moscato. Yes. So I was sent on the errand.
Yes.
Emily trusted me to go, and I went just like any good listener to the wine merchant. And I said, Danny, hey, hi, I need a good Moscato. You know how Emily's tastes are.
I love that. You know what? And as soon as you said, Danny, help me out, I was like, phew. No, not that I don't trust you, Michelle. You've picked out some really excellent bottles that we've featured so far.
It was very good.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
But I am excited about this one that you've picked out today. This is a Moscato D'Asti. It's from Cascinetta Vietta. It's a 2017. I have to say, I think this is just a really lovely way to start today. It's got really nice effervescence, just tiny, tiny little bubbles. The aroma of peach is very prevalent on this. And I just think it's lovely, beautiful, pale yellow color. You're going to get a little, I think I get a little rose petal on the nose. What about you?
Sure. Well, no, now that I smell, if I take a really
Very light,
deep
floral, pretty notes.
smell, yeah, now I smell it. Wow, I have really evolved.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, so I think this is lovely. Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Thank you.
It is Frizzante, the good Italian.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
So,
microphone.
Michelle, you've tasted it.
I have tasted it. Well, I am going to steal a little statement that Danny said about this wine, and he was not referring to how it panties at all, but it was like a very versatile wine where you could have it on like a hot day, a hot summer day, sitting out there on the patio, or with like a really great pepperoni pizza.
That would be good, actually. Is this what inspired the charcuterie
now
today?
I have like the whole, the whole grocery store, deli section here on the table too. Well, that's what happens, otherwise we might drink too much. And we don't want to be irresponsible.
We're responsible.
And we want you to be able to understand us by the end of the show. So we try to go a little slower with that. But so thinking about the fact that it's very versatile, it's a nice solid pair of panties that isn't ever going to let you down. And you could serve it as dessert wine if you wanted to.
Oh, my goodness.
Or you could, I know, I've learned a lot. Or, just keep it to yourself. You don't have to share with anybody,
So this is kind of
I
like...
never do.
Good practice.
Perfect.
So it's kind of like your breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert kind of wine.
Right. So like it just all around versatile. And, every woman has a pair of versatile panties that she has in her drawer. And so this is kind of like the wine version of it. So
I love it.
What's your impression of it, Amanda?
Well, I do taste and smell the peach.
Okay.
And it does remind me of actually a red dessert wine, believe it or not.
Interesting.
It's got that syrupy taste to it. I love that.
We have made her very happy.
Well, good.
Yes.
Well, good.
That's our goal, and I think our listeners can get out there and get a bottle of this from the wine merchant, and it's a really reasonable price. It was like $13, very reasonably priced, so you could get 2 or 3, whatever you want.
Yeah, that way you can share if you want to.
That's right.
If you feel inspired. Yeah. So, well, I was looking forward to getting a chance to meet you, Amanda, because I've heard about you. I've heard lovely things about you, but I have never met you before, and I'm curious, how did you and Michelle meet?
Well, it was over 20 years ago now. 23 years ago.
Goodness.
I used to babysit
My
Michelle's daughter, Megan.
Oh.
Yes, Amanda was a high schooler, and we moved in right next door to her and, her family. And I had this, 9-month-old, almost 1-year-old. Yeah, Amanda was at Meg's first birthday party,
That's
right?
right. Yes, I was there.
Yeah.
She was in diapers. I remember when she was just toddling around.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, she was itty bitty.
Yeah.
And I would babysit all the time. Yeah.
And Amanda has two older brothers, and so when Megan got a little older, and she'd be out in the backyard, and she'd be in her little swimming pool,
Flirting with the boys.
flirting with your brothers,
Yeah.
and your older brother, he'd be outside, and Megan would go, "Hi, Mike." She was like 2.5, 3, and she'd go toddling over to the fence.
He was about 20.
Yeah, he was
Oh my
so
gosh.
accommodating. And I told him, I go, "Mike, you don't have to wait for Meg. It's fine."
He did the half wave,
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, and we've kept in touch, but I do want to share one funny story. Amanda's about 10 years younger than I am, or a little older. 10 years, I think, is it?
Yeah, I
is the
think
difference.
it's exactly 10 years.
Yeah, we're in the same month.
Yeah.
And she had just finished babysitting, and Dan, my ex-husband, and I, we were at the house. We were talking to Amanda, and we have to remember she was high school, and she says to my ex-husband and I, she goes, "So, where were you guys when Kennedy got shot?"
Oh, my gosh.
I
Were you
love to
studying
say
that
that
in school?
it doesn't sound like something I would say, but I really did say it.
She did. She asked Dan and I where we were when, and we were both like, So we thought, obviously she thinks we're much older than we are.
I didn't think that.
I was like 26. I said, "Well, Amanda, we weren't alive then, but we can tell you where we were when Reagan got shot." And you were like, oh. And I don't know, it's because that's what you would hear your parents talk about. My parents would talk about where
Your
they were.
whole world is so small at that point, at that time in your life. And I do remember Michelle being the coolest person in the whole world. She was the kind of person that would go out on a Saturday and come home at 2 in the morning.
Yes, I would.
And I'm thinking, wow.
So not much has changed.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't go not near as much. So y'all were able to hear that. Hear us coming home so late.
I
no.
was
You
still
were
there in the
babysitting.
house.
That's
Yeah,
right.
I would babysit, and
yeah.
I would think, wow, this is really adult. I cannot believe how cool this is.
Can't wait to be grown up like she is.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to be Michelle.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh.
it was
Well,
very
now
funny.
I'm blushing because that was an awful lot of. I don't know if I was the best role model. I know I do have a tendency when I would come home from being out, Dan and I, and having a few drinks, put my arm around the babysitter and start telling her all the things that nobody else is going to tell her about. Which much,
Yes.
I guess this is where the Cliterally Speaking the Podcast is evolved
It really came from these
earlier
conversations.
times.
really
I felt
did.
I was
Yeah.
inspired. I had to tell them the truth about what college was going to be like and about boys and relationships.
Everything. She knew everything, absolutely everything. So here it was, 2 in the morning, and she would sit me down on the couch for another half hour of life advice, and I would just
Unsolicited life
eat
advice.
it up. And I'm thinking, wow,
So
this is the coolest woman I've ever met.
Oh, that's
do
just
you
funny.
recall any particular piece of advice that really stuck with you?
There was some advice about what college to go to. There was, and I did take that advice. And I went to Webster for my bachelor's, and she was very adamant about do what you want and exactly just choose your own path and try to see the world. And it stayed with me. And so when I was in college, I experienced a small amount of culture shock. Going to Catholic school in South City,
yeah.
You're thinking that the world is only Catholic school, South City, and then you get to college and you realize, wow, some of those things that she was saying, they're really coming true. So it was good.
Yeah.
So
I think our listeners feel the same way after I've had a bottle of wine.
giving them
You know,
unsolicited advice.
Yeah, unsolicited advice that ring true. Like even when she's been drinking, she still kind of has her S together.
Did you babysit when you were younger, Michelle?
I did.
Yeah.
I babysat from not only my younger siblings, that was unpaid.
That's slave labor.
That's slave labor.
Yeah.
Me and my therapist talk about it. I still love my parents, but I babysat from I think age 12 until and I guess when William goes off to school, I'll be done.
You'll be done.
Yeah.
Well, until they have grandkids, and then.
And then babysit the grandkids.
Yeah, something like that. If I
Yeah.
let them know where I am. Yeah.
12 was the age to start
That you start. Yeah,
babysitting.
that's when I started
Right,
as
but
well.
I don't know if that's the way now.
I can't imagine hiring a
A
12-year-old
12-year-old.
now to care for.
I think it depends on the maturity level.
I think it depends
of
on
the
the maturity
12-year-old.
level. Yeah, definitely depends on the maturity level.
Yeah.
But I remember one lady I babysat for, and she had 3 boys. They were all handful. They were a couple of years younger than me. And she paid me $3.10 an hour, and she would always get
That's
out
pretty good money
It's very
at that
specific.
time.
$3.10
Yeah.
an hour. This was in 1985. And she would come home from whatever she had to do, and she would take out her calculator. She would, add up exactly how many hours and a half or a quarter, and then multiply it out, and then give me, to the penny. And I'm like, this. It was like the worst pay situation.
Well, I'm curious what the minimum wage was then. I'm curious
It was
about
less.
that. That
the
10
minimum wage.
cents.
The minimum wage was more than $3.10.
like $4.25 or something.
Yeah,
like that.
it was like
right?
$4.25, and
Yeah.
it's been $4.25 until
Forever.
Well, why wasn't it
it's more than now.
exactly $3? Why did she add the 10?
I don't know.
Maybe
I don't know. And then she would she would prorate it.
Interesting.
And she had 3 boys. It wasn't like I was getting paid $3.10 an hour to watch Fantasy Island and Love Boat on Saturday night and eat the crackers and the cookies. No.
Okay, so ladies of the Babysitter Club, I want to know, what is your worst babysitting story?
Okay, it
Like
does
when
not
you were
involve
babysitting.
me.
No,
okay,
yeah.
Amanda.
Change the names to protect.
It does.
Yes.
It does. And it had nothing to do with her or her ex-husband or the baby. It had to do with the dog. They had a little
Chloe.
dog, Chloe.
Yeah.
And it was Valentine's Day. They asked me to come over. And
Yeah,
they
because we were
had
so romantic.
Right. They were going out to dinner or what have you. And it was very easy. And I was only there about maybe an hour. And they had a balloon, a helium balloon. On the end of it was a little piece of candy. And the dog ate the piece of candy with the string or the ribbon of the balloon coming out of its mouth.
Oh, I don't remember
And
this.
so I'm watching TV, and all of a sudden,
Chloe's choking.
she's running past me with a balloon coming out of her mouth.
Oh.
And I'm like, oh, well, I better take that because I don't want to.
You wanna
it's
see that
chocolate.
coming out the
I
other
don't want
end.
her to be sick in any way. Well, then I realized she had swallowed the chocolate, the entire chocolate bar, so the string was coming out of her throat.
Oh
So I
my
had to
God.
stick my hand down her throat and pull out the chocolate with the ribbon attached to it. And I thought, oh my gosh, this dog is going to die while she's out to dinner. Luckily, she was fine, and I just never told you.
I apparently owe you some more money for your life-saving skills on my
saved
dog.
the dog's life.
Do you have like traumatic kind of
She doesn't have any
memories of
animals now.
Yeah.
I have,
No more
I have
chocolate?
2 dogs, and I'm like, oh gosh, there's no chocolate around. But yeah, that was the only time. But Megan was very easy. She was a good girl. She loved to sing all the time.
Yeah, well, she's quite musical from what you
Meg
shared.
is,
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
was always in plays and things later, right?
yeah.
So, yeah, she was the easiest little baby. I had no problem with her. I call her a baby, and she's 24.
Gonna be 95. She's gonna be 24.
Wow.
She's 23 now.
Hopefully, she doesn't mind if I call her a baby. If she's okay with that.
You know, she can call our comment line and leave a response for that.
So, Michelle, what about you? I want to hear. Do you have a traumatic babysitting story?
Oh, well, nothing like that. Nothing like Amanda said, you know. I would probably think the times when it would be so late when the parents would come home. And now as a grown up, and I realize how many times the father was drunk driving me home back in the 80s.
I know. Just smashed.
You know,
Yeah.
It's like things were so different then.
No seatbelts, drunk, the
Drunk
works,
driving
you
you
know?
home.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was nice. I wouldn't remember my kids would babysit. I always made sure that I did not go out and I was home so that they could call me if they needed me to come pick them up, because the parents, you know, might have had a little too much to drink or something like that. I always wanted to be available for my kids to get home. This was, of course, before Uber or Lyft or any of those ride-sharing services. But
Yeah.
anyway,
Well,
so that's how Amanda and I know each
I
other.
think
Long time ago.
maybe my babysitting experiences were a little more lively than yours. I was definitely one of the neighborhood babysitters, so it was like a full-time job for me. You know, I babysat almost every night of the week from the time I was 12 until I was 16, 17.
Summers only, or even during the school year?
During the school year.
Wow.
Yeah,
Very
in fact,
busy.
I bought my first car from my babysitting
Money?
funds.
Wow.
Yeah. So I the one that rings out the strongest to me is there was a little boy in the neighborhood, and I think he was maybe 5 years old or something like that when I was babysitting him. And he, went to the bathroom and came out of the bathroom. He, had used the bathroom on his own many times before, but this time was much different. He came out and he had poo on his fingertips, a hefty amount of it, like globbed on, and came out, and he's like, "What do I do about this?" And I was just like, "Oh my goodness," and I was shocked and not mature enough at that point in time to think, let's just go to the bathroom and wash your hands off. I was like, oh my gosh. And then he saw, how like a dog, when you're trying to catch a dog, he'll run away. It's the same kind of thing. So this kid saw my oh my gosh. And then he started to chase me around the house.
With the poo on his hands.
On his hands.
Did he catch you?
No, he didn't, but he caught the walls instead and started wiping his hands on the walls. So that was a lot of fun.
Oh no!
So did you tell the parents, or did you get it all cleaned up before?
Yes and yes.
Oh wow.
Yes and yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
wow.
that was
weird. I'm not going to ask you this child's name to protect the innocent, because he probably would hate to have that out there.
Right.
Or maybe his own children are doing
paying
that
back. You never know. Yeah.
Holy cow.
So
did you babysit for them again?
I think I babysat like one or two other times from them, but with them. But I had other other families to babysit.
Non-shitty situations that you could get into. other families.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back. I know we want to talk with Amanda a little bit about this whole. It's not really a phenomenon, but it is well, let's call it a syndrome, this whole mommy shaming thing, especially for working moms and stuff like that. And as babysitters, I bet you we probably could have done a little bit of mommy shaming about her son running around with shit on his fingers.
No kidding.
So,
yeah.
but we'll take a quick break and we'll come right back with more Cliterally Speaking the Podcast.
Food, anyone?
Who's hungry?
I am. This is good.
Yeah.
That was a pretty traumatic event.
I have a few. That was
Oh my
probably
goodness.
the most. Yeah.
You know, the whole time that you were telling that story, I could just think about maybe a week ago in my house, and that's how my
There's,
little
like,
boys are
normal-
up on
yeah.
the walls.
Well, I mean, I have stories about raising children. I don't know.
But the babies, Megan never did anything like that. She was sweet as
Good
pie.
girl.
She never did.
I was lulled into thinking that all children are like that. So I had 2 more. Trying to prove myself. Got it?
A little bit more lively
I was just
than.
going to get closer to you so you didn't feel like,
All right. This is
do you want some of this
actually-
or this
Sure, yeah.
cheese? We have some Swiss and cheddar or Colby or whatever.
It was my birthday yesterday, so I've been eating for like
Happy
forever.
birthday.
So
Okay.
I'll
Do
allow
we have a
myself to continue pounding.
tiny little sip? Tiny. Amanda?
Oh, sure. How big are these studios?
Well, this is a smaller room.
Yep.
And then on the way down the hallway, you walk past a bigger room, but
Yep.
I just didn't see it. The one over there. is pretty
Fast. It's going to be a quick one.
Is everybody doing something right now, or?
Yeah, there's something going on in the other room also.
Oh, very cool.
I'm going to move this out of the
Probably
way.
the biggest studio.
This
I
one?
didn't know that.
Okay.
There is some
So that
cookies
is the
if you
last
want.
of our wine. Normally we take 2 breaks and refill each time.
Well,
so
we can say we are.
I know, just letting everybody know. That's all.
Slow down, Michelle, is what she's saying. Because it is easy to
It's
go down.
very easy to drink. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
I should have bought 2
The
bottles.
first-
But then maybe
No,
one
no,
bottle. That's the show. One
that's
bottle
right.
of wine.
Yeah.
That's our process.
That's our process. Okay, so here is 20 signs you're being working mom shamed. So, like other few, I printed those out since I didn't let you know what the topic was
Yeah,
going to
right.
be like. Since you're flying blind today,
Mm-hmm.
here's this, and then I have your bio because I have
Oh.
it for the website, but
Oh,
what
God.
a professor of communications,
Public relations.
public
yeah.
relations and communications at
Mhm.
Missouri Baptist, and a mother of 2 young children.
Yes.
And so that's how we'll
That's
get
fine.
okay.
Yeah.
And then we can talk.
Okay.
All right. Is that,
Yeah, that's
use it
interesting.
as a code,
Yeah.
cheat sheets.
I love the second one. You're so lucky your husband's good with kids.
Mm-hmm. Lets you work outside the home. Some of these things really got me.
Riled up.
I know, doesn't
Yes.
it?
Yes.
And I've been dealing with that for the past year.
We don't want to waste.
Yeah.
We're not wasting it, but I don't want
waste
you.
the thought.
I want it to be spontaneous
Yeah.
and not feel, oh, this is so rehearsed. Let me have some water.
Okay.
And we're off.
Mm-hmm.
We're back to Cliterally Speaking the Podcast. So before the break, we were talking about those incidences with our babysitting situation, and we wanted to talk some more about the syndrome of mommy shaming. And Amanda, she brought this up on an email. She's like, Michelle, this is a really horrible thing that's going on, and I would love to talk with you about it. And I said this would be a fantastic topic for our podcast. And so Amanda is a professor of communications and public relations at Missouri Baptist University and a mother of 2 young boys. They're
Yes.
2 and 4?
4 and 3.
4 and
Yeah, Nick
3.
just turned 3.
Yeah. And so, Amanda works full time. She has, married the kids, and she was sharing with me. And so go ahead and share a little bit with our listeners what brought this like why you wanted to come on and talk about this topic
Sure.
today.
Well, I am an older mom and didn't start having. Oh yeah.
No, you're
So,
not.
hey, I'm almost 40. Yeah.
Well, that's nothing.
And I always wanted to be a mom. I didn't think about other moms that much. And when I had my kids, it was fabulous. And then my oldest son just entered preschool this past August, and I really have a lot of mommy guilt about that, and
What aspect of it?
Well, being gone all
Okay.
day, and having to when I'm there, I have to grade papers, write lectures, do lots of different things, answer student emails. So it feels like I'm working all the time, and
Right.
so I have to categorize my time quite a bit for the good of the students. Quite honestly, I also advise about 35 students and oversee their internships, and so there's a lot of different things going on. So when I put my son in preschool, I decided to balance that mommy guilt with getting involved in as many things as I possibly could. Mommy clubs and lots
Stretch
of
yourself
different
even
things.
more, right?
Absolutely. And I thought I can do it all. I will have lots of time to do these things, and I'll be on the board of things, and I'll go to meetings, and then
You'll be the PTO mom as well
Right.
as a professor.
I can do it all.
Okay.
I
okay.
thought all of those things.
It's
and
easy.
then
Well, I was your. I mean, you looked up to me, right? You
I
thought
did.
that's what I did, right?
I
That
want
I
to
did
be
it
like
all.
Michelle. Right? That lasted about maybe 2 weeks, and I would go to a meeting or some kind of event, and all of the other moms, I kid you not, all of them were stay-at-home moms. All of them. There wasn't
Really?
one working mom. And
That's surprising.
Oh yeah, right. And so I felt very out of place, but I thought I can handle this. And then I realized that they were planning things, outings and playground dates and all these things during
not
the
including you?
day. Like,
Right.
well, right. I don't think they were purposely excluding me, but I realized that there is a mom category or a mom box that you fit into, and then if you don't, then obviously you're just out of the club. And I didn't even know that I was in a club of mommyhood,
You're in the working mom club.
the working mom club.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I just could not fit all of this into my schedule at all. But I tried the book club. I didn't like the book. It seemed as if they were going on one chapter a week, and I had read 9 in about 4 days. And I'm thinking, I don't know if this is the right thing for me. And I started thinking about it almost every day, wondering what kind of mom am I, and what is my little boy going to think of me if I'm not giving out Rice Krispie treats, if I'm not a room mother, and all of these things. And it really started to bother me. And then I realized right after I told some of the other moms, I don't really think I want to be in this anymore. You're completely excluded.
It's curious to me. I'm wondering with the book club, for example, the children aren't a part of that, right? It's
Right.
just within
Just
the
moms.
mothers.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if the bond is that you all have children that are in the same school or class together, I'm not. I guess I'm confused as to why is this all the pressure? Why are you looked down upon for not participating in a women's group more than, it's not like you're
Well-
coordinating events with the children.
I think they probably subconsciously felt that you were rejecting them, so they just cut you off. Subconsciously.
Possibly.
Yeah, that's
You know.
yeah.
I looked it up online what the definition of mom shaming, and it says criticizing or degrading a mother for her parenting choices because they differ from the choices the shamer would make. So if you have a group of stay-at-home mothers and you're a working mother, you're going to make different choices just by the nature of the fact that you are working outside the home and they are unpaid workers inside the home. And being a working mother carries your own guilt that, you don't need anybody else telling you that you're doing something wrong, because you're already beating yourself up for the fact that you don't have 36 hours in a day, and why you haven't been able to make it to be 36 hours in a day. But it is very prevalent, and the more research I did for the show, it is very prevalent, and I was getting quite upset reading about this, and I can't imagine like living in it.
Yeah, it's a very lonely feeling. You sort of envision your whole life a certain way, and then all of a sudden you realize that you are stuck in the middle of the water and you don't know how to swim. And that
people
really
feel
is
like that a lot just by being a parent.
Oh,
I mean, just right off the bat,
Definitely.
being a parent, you don't know which
How do
way
I
to
handle the situation of this kid running at me with poo and his,
Right.
right? Like, yeah, for example. Yeah.
Right. But then to have women, and I don't know why we do this. I don't know why we tribalize sometimes as women. And, reflecting back, like I said earlier, I'm about 10 years older than Amanda. I'm not in that same place anymore. I was a working mom. I don't know what it's like to not have a job and have children. And then I was divorced. So there's a whole other category of not having the spouse with you, so you don't fit into that group. But people will, take whatever opportunity they can to make a comment on your parenting style.
This kind of harkens back to some of the things that we like to share from an inspirational standpoint of, being the kind of woman that lifts other women, and building a community that supports each other. I am confused. I am not a mother, so I haven't had the experience of mommy shaming, but I definitely have had a lot of experiences of feisty women. Let's just put it that way. Women being very critical and, grouping together to ostracize somebody else in the group. And I've definitely been that odd woman out multiple times. And I find it so confusing to me because, I think that there's so much greater strength when we rally together and support each other. I don't understand what we have to gain by tearing each other down.
do you think it might be our own search for individuality, and we really want to be noticed? We want people to see us as better than we are or more than we are. And so we put each other in different groups. And I shouldn't say put each other down, because not everyone was doing that. It was just more of a, oh, well, I'll pay attention to these other people because she can't come to anything anyway.
So why should I invest in a friendship with her, because she's not going to be, it's not going to be.
Absolutely.
So, just brilliant thought came into my mind. Those are friendships by convenience, not friendships with intention. Does that make sense?
Very true.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. I know that when I sent my son to nursery school when he was about 2.5, there was another mother who only worked, I think, maybe 1 day a week out of her home. And we happened to have a friendship, I thought, because we were picking our son up at the same time. So after seeing each other for a while, we became friends. And the interesting thing is we hung out several times. And as soon as I took my son out of that nursery school, I never heard from her again. And that was my first experience with that. And then wondering what happened. I had been on the board over there, and so was she. And there were a lot of interesting common elements. But then when you take that away, people don't know what to say to you anymore.
So were you ghosted? Or like, did she just stop responding to your phone calls and so forth? Or was that the only time that you connected and said, oh, hey, let's get
I
together?
think we sent a few text messages about 3 or 4 times, and I suggested getting together, and then she was always too busy or something. And I think I'm at a point in my life now where you reach that point where you're like, I am so sick of chasing people, and if you don't want to come to something, don't come. If you don't want to be a part of something, just don't call me, because I found out that people will will be a part of something when they really want it. And when they don't, they'll find an excuse to not talk to you or be a part of whatever it is you're doing. So it's an interesting time for sure.
And you can approach that from a little because you are, an older mother, so you are approaching these relationships with a little bit more already experience behind you. But these, imagine if you were 22 or 23 trying to navigate this stuff and don't have the wealth of experience and wisdom just from having lived a few more years and interacting and being in a professional environment at the university level. So I feel like how do we break those behaviors, or how do we talk about them so that whoever is listening to us that might be a younger mother or might be feeling that they've been mommy shamed and are questioning their value as a parent. I mean, I'll tell you what, kids are resilient, and the best stories, the best times, if you can relate to somebody who has raised children, or you hear from them and you realize, okay, their kids turned out all right. I mean, when my son, who's now going to be 20 years old, he was about 2.5, 3, and I was working in the kitchen, and he comes, I hear him say, "Hey, Mommy, look at me." And I turn around, and he is walking around with a plastic grocery bag over his head.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, God.
And my heart just dropped, right? And I grabbed the bag off his head, and I was like, "Oh, don't play with grocery bags," But I felt like how reckless I am as a parent, because he found this Schnucks bag, right, that was somewhere in my house, and he put it over his head. And thankfully, he likes to show off when he thinks he's done cool things, and he showed off to me. But I was talking about this with another mother, and she said, "You know what I always do? Whenever I come home, I immediately take those bags, or I'm done, and I tie them up in knots so that they can't be opened up." And had I not asked or shared my vulnerability, I wouldn't have learned that skill. And maybe that's it. Maybe women are afraid to be vulnerable sometimes.
Oh, well, that makes a lot of sense to me. Yeah.
And if we can jump on somebody else's, then we build ourselves up, or like
Sure.
What's that cliche? I can't think of it right now, but
you build yourself up by putting other people's down.
Right.
That I think that is, and that's a men and women kind of, that's not unique to just women. But again, that just takes us back to the beginning of why we wanted to start having these conversations, because we want to empower people to grow by being vulnerable.
Right. So what have you done then since then? How have you taken care of yourself?
Well, I believed, and this is to be fair to a lot of the women, I don't think that they meant to be malicious in any way, but I felt like I had to remove myself from all of it. And I stopped doing the book club. I stopped going to the meetings. I didn't want to be a part of any of those things anymore. And in a way, just chose to stay in my lane. And I don't know if that is going to help me or hurt me in the long run. But that's sort of like, you know what? I'm just going to go and do my university things and talk to professional women and talk to women who are working. And so in a way, it doesn't help, because then you don't get to know other people who aren't like you. And they don't get to know me either. So,
I totally understand that desire just to pull away from it all and protect yourself. But, is there this overlying fear of rejection that's actually keeping you from trying again and trying? I'm surely within these women, there's someone that will understand how you're feeling.
I don't know if it's a fear of rejection, but a fear of exhaustion.
Okay.
And I do not have time for this. And so what I found, instead of joining lots of things and being a part of lots of different things, picking out one or two people from my son's class and saying, you know what? My son talks about your daughter all the time. Do you think that you want to get together? And I think that's a better way to go for me than getting together and doing all of these things like crafts and
Yeah, sure.
things that I've never been very good at.
Yeah, no, me neither. I haven't. I mean, I really blame. And I've said this before. I blame a lot on Martha Stewart. She's made women feel, well, women like me feel inadequate because I didn't raise the wheat in my backyard that I harvested to bake the cake from scratch for my son, daughter, and that I didn't, use the milk from the cow and the eggs from the chickens that I have in my, city backyard.
But you don't have a staff of 10,000?
And I don't have a staff of 10,000
Right?
yet. Hashtag goals, right? But I also want to say that, your children are not going to judge you for not being at the bake sale because you're present. You show up in their lives and are present in their lives in so many other ways that they're not even going to know that you weren't room mom,
I think so. It does hit you every now and then. I know we live in a subdivision in St. Peter, so we have to go through about 3 or 4 different streets to get to our house. And we were driving through a few weeks ago, and my son said to me, look at all those people, they have pumpkins. How come we don't have any pumpkins? And I thought, oh yeah, Halloween is coming up. I completely forgot about it. And then I thought, oh no, I'm a terrible mom because I didn't put out pumpkins, and these people had them out there for a month and a half. But it comes down to what's right for us and what we have time for.
Right. And you cannot kill yourself trying to appear to everyone else that you're this perfect mother, because you are the mother to your children. So you're perfect for them. And, you will be fine as life goes on that the things that they will remember, you'll be like, oh my gosh, that they will appreciate the small things, whether it was like hearing you cheer for them on the side of the soccer field when you're able to be there, It's like, yeah, there's my mom. She was always cheering for me, or we did this or that, or, she read books to me. I went to a wedding this past weekend, and the daughter was a friend's daughter got married, and in her speech to her mom, she quoted from a children's book that her mom read to her all the time. Love you forever, like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be.
Cute.
We were all in tears. Okay, so that's what she's remembering and sharing. So
she's a busy working mom.
And she's a busy working mom. Yeah. She's an attorney. I mean,
wow. Yeah, she's very busy. Well, that's helpful.
But there's some resources out there. Read. I saw an article in Working Mother magazine just released a couple days ago about this whole shaming working moms. If you feel a little like this is happening to you, go online. Laugh at some of the memes. Connect with. I'm sure when you connect with others in your circle, your same social circle, even if you have young kids and their kids are grown, you still have relationships with them.
Absolutely, yeah, for sure.
We're gonna take a quick break. Oh, sorry, that's that whole Moscato.
Yeah,
making me.
We're gonna do a little glass refresh because clearly Michelle needs more.
Clearly.
We'll be right back. I'm just texting Sarah because I haven't no. So I'm like,
she's coming, right?
Yeah, I texted. We talked earlier today, so I just want to make sure.
That's good.
So which parking lot did you guys park in? The one that's right over here? Oh,
oh, right.
Between
behind.
Hodak's and this building. Well,
yeah.
Well, whatever. Let's say this is the door.
Yeah.
That one. And did you park? Because Hodak's is, well, when you walk.
The one in between Hodak's and here,
this building,
and then there was a guy who was sitting in his car smoking, and I wasn't sure of the entrance to the building. I thought he worked here, and he was like, "Oh, I just got done eating at Hodak's," and I'm like, "Oh, whatever." And so I get out and I start walking around. I'm like, "There is no entrance to the building. Where is it?" So
it's on the Gravois side.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to text her because I was like, it's kind of weird. Is there somebody still here to let people in?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, then we should be fine. All right.
So I think on this next segment. talk about like cool things you're working on. Just have a little brief.
Okay. Does it go till 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Wrap it up.
We'll refresh. Set refresh. All right.
I love Swiss cheese.
Yes.
Oh, I have to have it melted. Isn't that weird? It has that nutty flavor to it when it's, I call it raw cheese.
You don't like it?
No. When it's not melted, it just has that nutty aftertaste. Yeah.
Wow.
So clearly you don't like nuts.
I don't know.
Okay.
No.
All right. No pecan pie for you.
That's
Okay,
right.
Got it. All right.
I would eat the middle of it though, yeah, and the crust.
That's funny. All right. I'm ready. And we're back.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. I just needed a little refresh on my glass. This has been a very tasty wine to drink. And
Yes.
I'm
Disappearing quickly.
definitely disappearing quickly. So, Amanda, what kind of cool things are you working on moving forward? Raising the kids?
Well, in about 2 weeks, I am defending my dissertation.
Oh.
So I'm pretty
wow.
excited
And
for
what is
that. Getting my doctorate in higher ed leadership, and I wrote my dissertation on the influence of college films on the expectations of students in their first year.
Oh,
So
wow.
I identified about 10 films, looked at the patterns of Hollywood economics, and then realized that people were very influenced by the movies that they see.
You could have interviewed my son because he was like
yeah.
watching all those movies as a junior in high school, and he was like, I cannot wait to get to college
Because of those movies.
because of those movies.
What was his favorite movie that he liked to watch?
You'll have to name some out because I could just think about like Animal House, but I know he wasn't watching Animal House.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Similar in that vein.
Yeah, Animal House set the pattern for everything. But what I identified was that women liked Legally Blonde more than anything. And for some reason, men were identifying more with The Waterboy than any other movie.
Really?
Even though there was not many classroom scenes in that, they loved it. They were downloading that. It was being replayed over and over again. So I looked at Back to School, Accepted, Pitch Perfect.
Oh, yeah. I like Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, the whole thing that started it in my mind. I was thinking of what should I write about? What should I do? What do I care about? I can choose something public relations centered, but I'm thinking I cannot because I do that all day long anyway. So at that time, that movie, The To-Do List, it premiered. I don't know if you ever heard of that one.
I haven't seen it. Is it probably on Netflix by now?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And it was about a valedictorian who was a straight A student, and she thought that to get ready for her freshman year in college that she had to sleep with as many guys as possible. So she made a list
Oh, my gosh.
about what to do to them and a list of how to prepare herself. And I thought to myself when I saw the preview at the time, do people really think that that's what you do?
Right.
And it scared me. It scared me so much. And then after talking with my students, and they would make quick references to different things in movies. So I put a whole study together.
And okay, so if they do really kind of rely on those movies to give them the impression of how college is or how what it's going to be like, and then they get to college, do they suffer from a depression because it isn't the party, or if it is the party, you're not going to have the classes? I mean, what kind of
Right. Well, there's a transition into college, and Schlossberg has a transition theory where you go through these different changes in that first year, and if you expect it to be different than what it really is, you're going to drop out. And we have more people now than ever that have dropped out, that have never finished, that have gone for something, that are in debt for something they never paid for, never finished. And so I realized that combined with something called metacognition, which is sort of that thing where we think of ourselves as capable in one way, kind of like if you can look at American Idol and those
sure.
people think that they sing really well. Well, some people get to
Yeah.
college and they think that they can handle it, but they can't. And so you're combining all of these different feelings, and they can't hack it.
And they drop out.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't handle it because they haven't been trained with the right tools to study the right way, or
Well, and there was a lot of first-generation college students out there, and they have nothing to base anything on except what they see. And the films are repeating a pattern over and over and over
Yeah.
again. For the past 30 years, it's the same thing.
It's a formula that works.
It is.
And
it is.
it'll draw people in. They'll get the money. You know,
Right.
it's like, it's like
Yeah.
making that pie over and over. It's
That's
always been
right.
the same way, because
That's
as soon as
right.
you change it, people are like, "Oh, that wasn't a very satisfying film."
right.
Right, and
he
that's what
dropped
people
out.
want. Yeah, he graduated.
Yeah.
Come on. Well,
Yeah. You
So-
mean the nerd doesn't become popular? What? You know, those guys. Yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Right.
So, is there a practical application then that you're suggesting with your dissertation
Well,
this research?
I didn't prove anything because in a doctoral study you just show the research, and
Okay.
so my suggestion was to have higher ed match the marketing patterns. So we tend to, in higher education, do mostly promotional things. Come on and have a college day, and you could shadow and do all these things.
Mhm.
And it doesn't work for these students because the messages from Hollywood are so much more powerful. Here's an example. So about 30 years ago, the movie Back to School, they had a marketing campaign that then was picked up by Melissa McCarthy's Life of the Party that just came out about, I think it was in May.
Yeah.
It was the exact same marketing campaign. So my idea is to, for higher education, to take existing marketing patterns, see what works, see what doesn't, and be
Yeah.
more consistent, because they're just sort of jumping to tactics right now.
Wow.
Well, I mean, I think that's a really cool body of research that you put together, and I am speechless because now I want to
I know.
go
Now,
watch
now I
movies.
feel like I need another glass of wine just to process that thought and figure out.
Because I think that, you know, and I'm no PhD. I like to pretend to be one, but I would think that with your research that there are some practical applications, not only on the high school level, like how to prepare those kids for that transition to, like, maybe they're just missing 2 or 3 pieces to get them to be more capable on that transition on their own. And then also that first year. And I've heard of some universities having like a freshman year experience
Right.
where they really dig or, you know, hold on tight to help retain them as they can keep them in for the next year and work on some of those things.
Absolutely. And there's so many that get that experience, but mainly it's traditional students that are living on campus. And what do you do with transfer students? What do you do with commuter students? Students who work full time. We're missing a big piece of it.
Yeah.
Sure, they're
Yeah.
not getting the full college
The
experience.
college experience,
Yeah.
right. It's all about the experience.
Well, I feel kind of blessed that we got you before you finished your defended your dissertation, because then we'd have to call you Dr. Amanda.
Yeah, that's right.
Dr. Amanda Staggenborg is joining us. So maybe you'll
official.
come back when you're done with that. Tell us how
Would
it
love
how
that.
it went, and how things are going with the kids, and what's your next
Absolutely.
project after getting through that dissertation defense.
Sleep a little bit, yeah. Just take a nap.
Oh, your expectations are way too high. We need to have probably some research on what
Yeah, yeah.
you're
What
not
can
gonna
we
sleep.
do now?
You're not going to get to sleep.
There's another benchmark that I have to hit somewhere along the line.
Well, the kids, you know, they're 4 and 3.
Yeah,
You've got a long time.
You have a long time before
That's right.
you
That's
really
right.
get to sleep. So
I do.
Yeah. Well, it's been great. Thank you so much for coming out.
Thank
on
you for
this
having me.
cold, snowy day and drinking some Moscato D'Asti with us.
Yes.
So,
Well, cheers.
Best wishes to you, Amanda.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us yet again on Cliterally Speaking the Podcast. If you are interested to see some of the behind-the-scene moments, check out our YouTube channel and subscribe. And as you know, subscribe to our podcast. And then, of course, if you have a comment to share, we want to hear from you. 812 727-0794. Thank you for joining us. We're looking forward to the next conversation.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Fabulous.